Hello everyone, Cutting Tool Designer here. Welcome to part 7 of the South Bend Heavy 10 restoration. Try and keep this one not too long. Just update you on current status, and we're going to reassemble the compound slide to its base, and then we'll attach it to the cross slide. So we'll show that assembly going back together again. And here is the tailstock screw, all painted up. See if I can get it into the picture properly. So the handle's painted, polished, assembly's ready to go back together again. I have the tailstock right now being de-rusted so I can paint it. So that's not too much further away. Basically everything for it's ready to go other than finish cleaning it up and get it painted. So what we'll do is, this won't go back in right now, but this is the cross slide screw and arm assembly, and you can see it's handle's kind of polished up, and I polished up the main housing bearing, and it's ready to go back in. Of course, this screw and this nut are going to need to be replaced at some point. We'll worry about that later when we get to the point where, of course, we're going to reassemble it at some point. So when we get to that point. Alright, so let me get you in here a little closer, and we'll go through the reassembly of the compound and getting it attached to the cross slide base. Be right back. Alrighty, here's the gib. Now the gib has a slight bend in it. I'll try and get you in here a little closer. I did try to polish it up a little bit lightly. As you can see, it didn't clean up in the center. And then the other side, you can see it kind of cleaned up in the center, but not at the bottom. But if you look real close, there is a small crack that goes up and down there, but then there's also a crack that goes the whole way up to about where my thumb's at. So it doesn't go the whole way through, but there's a crack in this piece. Probably okay for right now. I will look around to see if we can get another one. Okay, so here's the main bearing housing. Got it all polished up. Got the handle cleaned up. I mean, these aren't super polished, but they're polished up enough for what I want to do. And the dial. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and assemble this assembly. So we're going to take the lead screw. We're going to slide it in. Actually, I'll end up taking this apart at some point, but for right now, I am just going to put a little bit of WD-40 so I don't constantly have metal to metal on these. So this slides on with the threads going towards the lead screw. Okay, and that's the lead screw. Once this is mounted, it's going to spin in there. And this is the dial, the locking dial. And that's a little bit snug. Get some, let the oil work to it. Okay, that's good. Alright, and then we're going to slide the handle on. And of course there's the key slot where they drilled for the pin. And the pin is inside there. It didn't come out, so I'm not going to try and pop it out. And then we want to orientate it so that the key slides onto the pin, and then we have the locking screw. Now I kind of file down the booger marks on it and polish it up a little bit. We'll get that threaded on. So we can get this started properly. There we go. And I had modified an old screwdriver that the end was all messed up on, but it got too thin and too much heat, so it kind of failed. So we're not going to over tighten this. We're just going to get this on here so that it doesn't move. I'm just using, the side of the screwdriver to basically get it into position, and you can lock it down. Okay, so that's on there. That's locked. There's the dial assembly, the lead screw ready to go back on. Now here's our base, or the cross compound. And of course, you saw in the last video how I dressed up the bottom. I got this all painted now. Come up pretty nice. Takes about 2 days for the paint to fully dry where it's not tacky. And of course I got a couple screws in there for oiling it later on. So here's the end that we have to put this. No, actually, I think what we need to do is get it onto the compound base first so we can get the nut in. So we're going to flip this over. Oh, and by the way, in the dial, the lock for the dial, the brass shoe's missing. So I just got a little piece of aluminum and made it a little bit longer, and then we can screw that in like so, and that locks it down pretty good. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the compound base. As you see, I got it painted back here. Of course, we redid that surface. This is all polished up now, so you can see the surface really nice. So what we're going to do is lay this here. We're going to take the nut and lay down inside, and then we're going to slide. And actually what we're going to do is just put a little bit of WD-40 on these surfaces so they have some lubrication. I'm going to slide this in, lift up on it so that the nut goes over top of the nut, and I'm just going to reach down in here and kind of line it up until it goes into the slot or close to the slot. There we go. There's a counter bore in the bottom there where the lead screw falls in. Now we take this screw, and now we can tighten up the nut, but we're not going to tighten it until after we get the lead screw and everything in. Okay, so there's the nut in. Now we can take the lead screw and we'll spin it to start tightening it on the nut. So now it's in on the nut. Of course, we need to put a little lubrication on that so that we don't have metal to metal. And we'll lift up on it and just run it down a little ways until we get to the point where we can now have enough travel, and we start this in and thread it in. Actually, let me put a little bit of oil down through the oiling hole. Whoop, spray back. And continue to just thread that on until it bottoms out. Sorry, I was turning the lead screw. I have to actually turn this knob here, the bearing housing. Okay, so now that's pretty much down the whole way. And then we need to give it a little bit of a snug tight. A hole in the bottom for doing that. The zero should be on the top. Okay, now we have that. Now we have to put the gib in the gib screw. So we're going to put a little bit of WD down here, rub on this. Now what we want to do is slide this in. You know, that had to go in prior to that. So my mistake. Let's see, maybe we can get this cranked out far enough to where we can get the gib in. I should have put the gib in first, but I didn't. So now you get to watch me screw this out real far to see if I can actually fit the gib in or not. Nope. Alright, so let me pause this. I'll come right back at you when I get this back in the right position. 1 second. Okay, we're back. Got it disassembled. Alright, so the gib screw lock goes in here. So what we need to do is start sliding the gib in with the key notched that way. And then the screw slides in there. And that's what pushes it forward and backwards. So, went too far. Try and get that screw started. Not sure why it's not going in there. I think I got the right one. There we go. Alright, so that captures the gib screw, or the gib, and then, okay, that's nice and snug now, so we'll back that off slightly. And now we can put this back in. So we want to run in here and get it connected into the lead screw. Screw this in until we get to where we have the threads engaging into the housing, and continue to screw that in until we get it to the bottom. And get in there. Alright, a little bit more to go. And tighten it down. Okay. So that's got that tightened down. And moves pretty slick. Still has a little bit of play in it. And we'll go back through and adjust all this, but then you just tighten that screw up to change the tension on the gib. So it's pretty tight now. It's as far forward as it goes. And then we can lock this down right here. And it locks the dial down. You can unlock it then. So still got some play in there. And you should put a little bit of lube in here. Again, I'm going to take this all apart at some point. Alright, so that takes care of that for its assembly. And then here is the compound slide, all painted up, ready to go. And of course I put this over on the saddle and did the same thing with the wet and dry, leveled that out a little bit. But it's basically ready to go back together again. So what we need to do is put in these locking pins that go inside to capture the compound on top. So we've got a hole here on each side. You want the taper going up, and we're going to slide it in from the back side. Just make life a little easier. And push it in the whole way. And then we can do the same thing here, if I can get to it. A little awkward in that position. Okay, so make sure that's up. You need to reach in there, and that way you can turn things to be orientated in the proper position. Okay, so basically up, and then the locking nib or set screws, they screw into those hole slots on the sides right here. So we're going to get them in there. And these, I think, at some point, along with some other stuff, I haven't bought the materials yet, but we're going to probably get some blackening material and blacken up a lot of these bolts and things on this machine before we do the absolute final assembly. And yeah, okay, so that's pushed out. Got to bring it back a little bit. Got to bring this one back a little bit, and make sure it's out of the way. It seems to be stuck a little bit. That should go back in far enough. Okay, and then we're going to put a little bit of WD down on here. Now, I did these two surfaces, these mating surfaces, this one here and this one here, I leveled them out a little bit. And what I did there was I cut out some wet and dry to match this, and then I spun the compound base on it, and then flipped it over and put this on the compound base, and then did this and leveled those two out. It didn't take too much, it was kind of sweet. Alright, so that goes there. This has to drop down inside now. That right around, make sure it's lubricated. Alright, now we can tighten up these screws to where they lock down the compound to the cross slide. And I'm not going to do it real tight, but here you go. And get some of this excess oil off. Alrighty, so there you go. There is the compound connected to the cross slide. Of course, there's a 0 mark there, and there's a 0 mark there. And let's check out how the compound works. That's just full travel forward. This is full travel, and we'll travel on back to there. Now I will have to loosen this up and pivot it off to the side, because the set screw for the nut, I didn't tighten that up. Again, I just wanted to show you the assembly. So there is the compound. I like to do this, take out some of the slack that's in here. Okay, not too shabby. So there's the assembly of the compound to the cross slide. And of course it's all cleaned up, all painted, looks pretty good. I'm happy with the results. The paint that we got from Sherwin-Williams, that we got information for the mixture we got from Brad Jacobs, basement shop guy on YouTube, Maple Lane Machine. And of course I've definitely been using this Easy Off for the most part. I haven't really used the citrus strip anymore. Easy Off just seems to be a lot nicer, it's quicker, it degreases at the same time. And I guess maybe one other thing I'll show you real quick before we time this one off. Just come over here to the lathe, little handheld here. Now what I did was, this is the base for the tailstock. And what I did was I put down some, take down some wet and dry sandpaper, and then slid it back and forth and suction. Cleaned those up a little bit, nothing major, but and I've got some 30 weight on here, which is not weight oil, but yeah, it's sucking it on there. So that's the base, and the next step will be to get the we'll get the tailstock finished up. I want to try and get these sub-assemblies done before we take off any other major components. That way I don't have a ton of parts laying all over the place. So basically this sub-assembly is all done, ready to go back on the machine, and once we get the saddle done, then we can put this back on and that kind of stuff. So anywho, that's current status and update. Tailstock is next to get it finished up, and then once the tailstock's finished up, we will take off the quick change gearbox and the lead screw. Okay, I guess that's it for now. Appreciate you watching. If you want to keep following along, please subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. If you like what you're seeing so far, appreciate a thumbs up, as always. Until next time, again, this is the 2nd of January, so it's into the new year, 2017. Hope everyone had a safe and happy New Year's. And until next time, stay tuned for part 8. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.